Did Starfield save gaming? I think Starfield is a 7.5. Good, enjoyable time. As long as you don't go in with too many expectations. And I'm curious to see how it would have saved gaming. But I think it's a release that is, complete and is actually a good game. It's not a straight 10. So I don't know if it actually saved gaming or just is better than what you're used to receiving in the past.
But make them better.
Re-release them.
You, my friend, are a genius. Guys, give me more ideas. Add more content. The community does that for us.
Patch the bugs.
Hey, modders keep the world working,
Make them in space.
What did you say?
I said maybe make them in space.
What is your name, son?
It's...
That's space. Space is so hot right now. Space. Science fiction. Exciting.
Oh, of course. How could I forget? Yeah, I knew that.
Technically, we already did that in Fallout 3, so...
No one asked. All right, everyone.
Get out of here.
Let's get to work. And just like that, Starfield was born. Take everything great about previous Bethesda games, not you, add a dash of Star Wars, sprinkle in a little bit of Cowboy Bebop, and you've got yourselves the making of an amazing RPG. Past couple of years have been
good
rough
RPG.
for the AAA gaming scene, to say the least, and Bethesda is no exception, so it only makes sense the majority of games.
I have seen this a lot with Starfield. It's a very divided game in the fact that it's either the best thing ever or straight trash. And I don't think that's true. I think it's enjoyable on a casual basis for a lot of people. A above average game. It's good. It's not great or amazing. I think people overhype it on both sides. That's where the argument is. And it's so weird. It confuses me.
Gamers are cautiously optimistic in regards to Starfield.
As I was.
After dedicating over an
I was insanely cautious about Starfield. I wanted to be excited, but I didn't have a reason to be excited until Starfield Direct. Starfield Direct was done in such a way that it actually got me excited about the game when I was trying to be cautiously optimistic about it. And at the end of the day, that cautious side prevented me from expecting too much from the game, which ended up having me enjoy the game. It's crazy.
Entire day of my life playing this game, I can confidently say Starfield has the potential to save gaming. Starfield isn't just a cash grab. It has something truly unique that few other games have been able to achieve recently.
Okay.
It's a finished product. I know it's crazy to say that, but a AAA game was released finished in 2023.
Well, maybe if they didn't stretch the truth,
It is-
sell as many.
Starfield has been in the making for arguably 30 years.
It is a finished game, but there are some things that could have been better about the game. I think the game does do everything it's supposed to do, but there are small things in quality of life that would have made the game better, which is what knocks it off of the 10 for me. For me, one of the big ones is the food system was one of the most underutilized part of the game. The food doesn't give you buffs long enough to make it worth actually investing in utilizing food and being a cook. There's no city maps. That is a basic, come on, that would have helped a lot. The topographical map for areas you land in, not the easiest thing in the world to read. There are small things that could have made the game a lot better, but as it was delivered, it is a complete game, and it does deliver a 7.5, maybe an 8 if you're really into it experience, which is good. It's good, and the industry should strive for that as a minimum benchmark. A 7.5 to 8 game that is complete on release should be the basis. And if you're going to nitpick things to knock it out of a 10, That's
This
acceptable.
is something that Bethesda seems to be truly passionate about, almost as passionate as they are for re-releasing Skyrim. But they've been thinking of making a
can get
space
at least
RPG
2
since
more
the
re-releases
90s,
out of
and
that
this
game.
game's been cooking for some time now. They trademarked the name Starfield over 10 years ago in 2013, and it's been in active development for over 7 years. Now, if you compare these 7 years of dev time to other open world space games, you'll see why this is impressive. I've been a big fan of space sim games since I was little, and I have quite a few hours on most of the game's
extremely clear. In no way is Starfield a space sim game. They're completely different genres, and it's obvious. Space sim games allow you to fly everywhere, do everything, but they tend to lack anything that resembles a storyline or curated content, which is what Starfield does deliver. It delivers a storyline and curated content in space, which makes it a space RPG. And from that standpoint, pretty good.
Commonly compared to Starfield, so let me give you the facts. The most common comparison I've seen is to No Man's Sky, and ironically, after everyone dogged on it for years, people are complaining because they're saying it did planets better? Now, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed No Man's Sky, and the game it is today is entirely different from what it was in 2016, but it's still not without its flaws. 12 years of development, and many wouldn't consider it finished to this day. Now, yes, it has basically infinite planets, and the big one everyone talks about is seamless transitioning between the planets and space, but 99% of the game feels empty.
And that's
one of my biggest concerns for Starfield before launch was that it would also feel very empty and not lived in, but I was pleasantly surprised. The atmosphere is spot on, and unless you decide to aimlessly wander the wilderness, all the POIs have tons of stuff going on. Even the smallest towns seem to have a lot of story to them, and it's genuinely impressive. I won't lie, I was
a lot of side characters, a lot of side conversations, side quests. You end up going to places that are off the beaten path to complete specific tasks in that way. It does have that content that I think a lot of space sims are missing out on by a lot.
A bit disappointed as well learning Starfield wouldn't have seamless transitions, but I also apparently have a higher cognitive ability than most of the people complaining about this, because firstly, if you've played the game at all, you'll realize it's not that deep. Having seamless transitions wouldn't really affect the game at all, in my opinion. It would really just be a novelty. From what I've seen, none of the complainers took a second to think of the trade-offs of leaving this feature out. The game's performance is significantly better because of it, and it's actually faster to go to and from planets this way. The price for this is it does kind of break the immersion, but not enough for me to be actually mad over it or make things up about how
Bethesda promised us we would be able to fly to all of the planets, but it's just a big PNG that I can't get any closer to. This game is fucking terrible.
I make spaceship. There's also people comparing it to Star Citizen, and if you've played Star Citizen, the comparisons don't really hold up. That game's been in development for over 13 years, and it raised $500 million just to be eternally stuck in alpha
money,
and charge more money for an in-game spaceship than a real-life car. I personally find many
I don't know that Star Citizen ever stops being an alpha. I don't think it ever comes out as a game. I think they make too much money as it being a testing ground for something that could be a game. And they're very happy with where it's at, just sitting there.
Parts of Starfield to be most comparable to Destiny 2. I know some of you might not get what I mean at first, but hear me out. Just like in Starfield, you have to fast travel to new locations. They just hide their loading screens behind a little animation. But that's because in Starfield, it loads in like 2 to 3 seconds, and in D2, it's closer to like 20 to 30 seconds. It's just the main difference is you can actually fly your spaceship in Starfield, and it's not just a cosmetic. You have to farm every Tuesday on the solar equinox of the third moon rising using the Whisper.
And like the flight combat is actually pretty fun. You have to, depending on where you're at and like how overrun you are, you have to learn the mechanics of using your thrusters to get tighter turns and using like asteroids and rocks to get space for your shields to regen. There's a lot that you can learn in the space combat that makes it enjoyable when you actually do it in this game.
Of the cock. The last
I agree
comparison,
with that.
and the one I find most interesting, is to Cyberpunk 2077. This game made a huge comeback from its interesting launch in 2020. This is another game pretty different from how it was at launch, and
the comparisons to 2077, like, oh, look how much better this game is, and we all called it trash when it launched. But where it's at now and where it launched, 2077 is a completely different game. Whereas Starfield launched really close to where 2077 is now, a year or 2 years after launch. So, is that really fair? No. Once people start modding it and they keep like trying to patch and add quality of life, where is Starfield going to be in a year or two from now?
anime was actually amazing. But anyways, how are these two games similar? Well, they're both first-person open-world RPGs in a sci-fi setting that let you make your own decisions which affect the story. Go ask a boomer what that means. And similarly to No Man's Sky, people are once again comparing Starfield to a game infamous for being virtually unplayable at launch. Same thing as before, the current version of Cyberpunk is pretty solid, but the argument still stands. They've had almost 3 years after launch to add and fix things. My favorite comparison I've been seeing while doing my daily industrial Chinese brainwashing, glory to Xi Jinping, is most people comparing not the gunplay, not the characters, not the vehicles, but the fucking water physics in a space game set in space, the furthest place from an ocean or any body of water.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
Okay, I know it's supposed to be funny. I did do a little kawaii anime girl giggle the first time I saw it, but there's people who are legitimately upset that the water physics in Starfield don't really exist, like, at all. But, like, bro, it's a space game. And anyways, there might actually be an upside to that. A criticism I saw when reading some reviews is the first...
I can agree with that. If a game doesn't have, like, spot on or a mechanic that's not the focus of the game, I don't think that's like deal breaking. The fact that you can't do a lot of swimming in a game that's supposed to be focused on space and exploring land is not a deal breaker to me. Like, if you look for things outside of what the game experience is organically supposed to be and it doesn't deliver, I don't think that's a deal breaker for the game being good or bad.
DLC is going to be shit because there's already so much content that adding more could make it too overwhelming. Yes, people are complaining there is too much content. But anyways, the absence of any underwater gameplay is an entire avenue they could possibly explore for future expansions. I could be grasping at straws, but I just thought it was something fun
I don't
to
think they
about.
have to.
People seem to forget that this game literally just came out. Maybe in 3 years, if nothing has changed, I could validate these arguments, but in terms of priorities, I'd rather get the game now in its current state than wait however fucking long for them to add little pedal splashes for when I want to dance on the water like a little water fairy. The biggest thing people seem to forget when criticizing Starfield is that it's a Bethesda game. Of course it's going to have glitches, and I'd even argue they add a bit of personality because it's kind of funny. So long as they aren't game breaking or annoying, I honestly...
There it is. Look, every game today has bugs. I can't remember the last completely bug-free launch game. As long as games are comical or endearing or funny in some way and not game breaking or game crashing, then I'm okay with it. A funny little bug that I look at and like, what the hell is that doing? It's okay. But if it crashes my game or prevents me from progressing, then we have problems. But that's not where the game is, right? And it's not just it's a Bethesda game problem. GTA is full of them. Always has been, probably always will be. Every game. Rockstar, all the big developers, and even a lot of indie developers, bugs happen. It's just a process that games go through.
So you don't mind an occasional NPC becoming Superman for a minute. Starfield sure has a hell of a lot less bugs than previous Bethesda games on launch. Give it a month or two, and I'm sure most of the common issues are going to be gone anyways, but this isn't what I mean when I say people forget it's a Bethesda game. What is the one thing that completely changes all of your playthroughs, adds hundreds more hours of free content, new items,
Game
locations,
Plus?
fuckable NPCs, flying trains? That's right, mods. Only a few days after the official release, there's already close to 2,000 mods on Nexus alone. Just wait until it's on the Steam Workshop. I'm sure you've seen those videos.
And they're working on a system to make sure that those mods can go to Xbox. Consoles it's very rare that consoles get mods. Most games don't care about giving consoles mods. So you're getting those mods on console. The mods are going to be huge because every Bethesda game has a army of people who just sit and wait to mod it. They love modding and they can't wait to get into the modding system for it. So Starfield is going to be no different. There's going to be a ton of stuff added through that route. When you have other companies in the industry that attack and refuse to let modding exist, there are games that have actively attacked and shut down their modding community at every chance they got. So that's a big win for Bethesda's company mentality. Sure, they rely on modders maybe a little too much, but they allow them to have fun and make the game what it could be. Whereas other companies are out there suing modders and trying to get mods ripped out of every place they can find them.
Playing Skyrim with 69,429 mods, you won't recognize it. And usually they're right. I've seen clips of modded Skyrim that look like they were taken straight out of Ready Player One. And this is all being done on a 13-year-old game. That's older than most of the current Call of Duty fan base. Just imagine what kinds of crazy shit we're gonna see from Starfield mods in only a few months from now. And all you Starfield haters, trust me, I'm sure someone's gonna make a realistic water physics mod very soon. So why is Starfield so important? Well, let me give you the quick answer. It simply raises the bar for first-person RPGs. Now let me elaborate. The launch of Starfield, right after the launch of Baldur's Gate, is going to bring a new standard to the RPG genre. We've been getting loads of games that are unfinished, lacking content, or just simply aren't good. Maybe it's more accurate to say they just need to be updated for years and years after launch to get to the remotely playable state promised in the first place, but you get the point. The standard for what's called a AAA game and slapped with a 7.
I don't know if it raises the bar or just brings it back to what it used to be. I could see the argument, though. I don't hate the argument. I don't think it's Starfield alone that does this. And I think that a lot of game companies are coming around to the idea that single player experience have to be complete, and that games can provide more hours of content if they're not always online and need to be patched constantly, and you focus on stuff. So I feel like the industry is coming back to this idea of what makes a game playable and replayable, and it's not just Starfield leading the charge, but it's an argument that even though a lot of people hate the game or are criticizing the game, it is in a state at launch that allows you to nitpick instead of say it's not even playable, so I can't give you a true account of my experience. You get to actually judge the game on the story and the mechanics as opposed to not being able to play it or everything not working, which is a good spot to be in.
$70 price tag keeps slipping while the price keeps raising like my damn McDonald's cheeseburger. Then the developers have the balls to charge an extra
fucking okay, not the cheeseburger. I don't, when I go to McDonald's, I get 2 spicy McChicken sandwiches, and they used to be on the dollar menu. I went in the other day and I said I want 2 spicy McChickens, and they're like, that's $5.39. I was like, when the fuck did the McChicken sandwich start costing like $2.30? Damn it. It's everywhere. My games are expensive. My food's expensive. My drinks are expensive. Everything's expensive now. I don't like it. Sorry, rant complete. That's unrelated. I got sidetracked. He said squirrel, and I looked at the squirrel, and God damn it.
$20 to $40 to get all of the promised content, all while releasing cosmetics more expensive than most fully developed games. Or they just gaslight you by slapping a free-to-play tag on it, but games like that usually make you pay with something other than money. Nothing is truly free. Not only is Starfield a welcome addition to the RPG genre, but also to the space sim genre. Nearly all of the recent space sim games have been overly ambitious and
it's not fair to call it a space sim. Because if I'm going to be completely honest, and I am going to break it down, No Man's Sky and Star Citizen are better space sim games than Starfield will ever be. They allow you to do things that make it a true space sim. But because they are a space sim, they cannot load all of the extra required processing things to make it have insane storylines with massive worlds, with full rooms full of items that you can pick up. Like the notion of the space sim genre is so big that they can't add the things that Starfield has. And I think that being compared to a space sim is what destroyed a lot of people's preconceived notions going into the game, because it is a space RPG. It is not a space sim. So I don't like the comparison or calling Starfield a space sim, because it gives preconceived notions that people don't like, which is about the way you travel and go through the world, that takes away from that title of space sim.
And it shows on release. Instead of making small steps to an inevitably incredible sci-fi experience, it seems like developers are just trying to skip a step and go straight to the 100% lore accurate scale model realistically simulated infinitely generated universe. And yeah, that would be fucking sick, but I personally don't feel gaming is to a point where anyone can make a game like that fun. Unless of course your definition of fun is aimlessly wandering an empty void, and in that case, have at it. As someone who enjoys sci-fi games, my hopes are that Starfield can inspire a new wave of amazing space sim games, just like Titanfall did with the mech genre. Or who knows, maybe someone will just mod the entirety of what would be Titanfall 3
I actually
to
saw the other day,
Starfield.
This is weird. Titanfall 2 is having a massive like spike. It was just on sale like last weekend, but I guess they've added certain things and content, and they've actually matched their all-time high for user data just like last month. So Titanfall 2 has actually had a recent spike. It was $3 on Steam. I think that sale is over now though, because I saw it yesterday. I messaged Court, Chili Dogs, and all them that it was on sale for $3. And then Court said he couldn't buy it, and I went to go buy it for him, and it's not $3 anymore. Now it's $20. So that sale ended, unless it started up again. But like Titanfall 2 is enjoying some revival.
So what's the verdict on Starfield? Is it worth your time and money? Well, if you're watching this video, I'd say yes. I've been absolutely loving this game. I have over a day of gameplay and
It's
barely
definitely
even
worth a try.
touched the main story. Just recently,
I'm going to harp on this. It's 100% absolutely worth a try if you already have Game Pass. And if you're not trying Game Pass is worth a try. But to be able to play it for free off of that monthly subscription, it's 100% worth it. If you don't like RPGs or story-driven single-person games, then you're not gonna like this. If you want a game where you're just out exploring and flying everywhere, and you want to fly everywhere, this may not be the game for you, but it's worth looking at.
I finished the Ryujin Industries quest line, which is essentially an Apple employee simulator. It has you doing the normal stuff they do, like corporate espionage, incriminating your coworkers, completely collapsing rival companies so you can purchase them, you know, just like chill stuff. And on top of all that, there's an Among Us subplot with an imposter you have to discover. It was honestly more interesting than the main story at times.
Spoilers.
Granted, I've only done the first couple of missions, but I've been hearing tons of people say the same thing about other side quest lines. Not to say the main story is weak, but more to credit how actually interesting most of the side quests are. It's also super freaking fun to build your ship. I was kind of worried it would end up being complicated, but it really isn't, and you can make some cool stuff. This is my child, the Cum Crusader. He is very formidable, very intimidating. Another cool thing I've seen is a lot of people have been making famous spaceships in Starfield, and they look pretty sick to me.
A lot.
You can also build a whole ass base pretty much wherever you want. I know you can get slaves to work there and mine stuff for you or something like that, but I honestly haven't touched this part of the game at all yet. I've been too busy fucking it up in the Cum Crusader with my boy Barrett. Starfield has so much to offer. It seems like there's tons to do and the universe feels truly lived in. And if you were sad about the absence of something cool like shouts from Skyrim or VATS from Fallout, well, there's still some cool stuff in store. I won't spoil anything if you haven't played the game yet, but I don't think Bethesda mentioned the ability to become an all-powerful intergalactic space god much in the trailers. If anything, the biggest criticism I have is the same one I mentioned earlier.
It was in passing and it was really small, but people picked up on it on a trailer about a month from launch. A guy was walking down the hallway and he did like gravity push or something and everyone floated up and he went through killing him. It was a really quick little glimpse, but it was in the trailers, so can't blame me for spoilers on that. Space powers.
There's too much content, and it's not just all filler. Of course, there's other valid criticisms, like sometimes the enemies can be a bit too bullet spongy, and the AI isn't always as intelligent as Bethesda tries to make it seem. But if you don't...
The Red Mile, guys, that's one of them. Jesus. You empty like 5 magazines into those things. Like, I just ignored them and ran past them because it wasn't worth losing all that ammo. Like, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Just ignore them. My God, were they bullet spongy.
Don't mind a bit of modding, those issues can be fixed pretty easy. Also, the soundtrack is definitely no Skyrim. I listened to the whole thing and it's not bad, but I didn't really find it memorable. Most of the songs kind of sounded the same to me. Except for the bangers in the club on Neon, which aren't included in the official soundtrack. But honestly, how were they supposed to compete with this? Sends shivers down my booty every time. Most, if not all, of the hate I've seen in regards to Starfield either comes from people spreading misinformation for the sake of clout or people hating just to hate because they either don't like Bethesda or they just can't allow for any.
It's so weird. This is one of the few games that I've had people actively come into my stream just to tell me that I shouldn't be playing the game because it's so trash. It's one of the only games I've had this experience with. And I don't understand it. There's so many people out there that like hate it very aggressively. Overly aggressively. In fact, I did a video about how people hated it over aggressively, and someone came into that video's comments to tell me the game was trash and be over aggressive about it, almost solidifying my point that there's people that are going out of their way to tell me how trash it is. Yeah, and as Mischief says, I play a ton of trash games, so why is this the only one that people come out of their way to tell me, right?
Anyone to like anything ever. Of course, that should be expected from the internet, but my point is to take any criticism, both negative and positive, with a grain of salt. Overall, Starfield is a game I think can truly save gaming. It shows big companies like Bethesda are starting to respond to the complaints of gamers and learning from their past mistakes, something that can't be said about all dev studios, but hopefully the good faith will start to rub off. And for all of our sake, I really hope it does. You know, at least Starfield being a good game didn't prompt developers to complain about how the game is too good, so that's a plus. If you enjoyed this video, you should...
Oh my God, that whole argument. Boulder Gate's too good. It's insane. Here, let me give you guys this. There's the link. Drop a like on the video. It was a pretty good video. I don't know if this game actually saves gaming, and I don't know that Bethesda went like way above and beyond in changing the way they do things, but they did deliver a product that is fun and enjoyable out of the box, and I appreciate that they did that. And I am really hoping that the industry starts looking at delivering more single player or 1 to 4 player co-op games that are story driven, that deliver that experience without forcing you to be always online and all the other things that really detract from making a truly immersive story. I hope that is the path we're going. 1 to 4 player co-op, story-driven, immersive gaming. That's where I want the industry to continue to trend to, across many different genres. Hopefully. We'll see. Only time will tell, but can't get much worse, right? And let's be honest, 2024 was a banger of a year. Game of the year this year is gonna be a really hard one. I don't think Starfield gets it. It deserves a nomination, but it's not game of the year. But 2024 is gonna be a hard year to determine what the game of the year is, because there were a lot of really good games this year. You can subscribe, do this stuff. You want all that? All of that. Hey there, it's Skeg Broggy. Thanks for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and follow me here on Twitch for more awesome content. Link is in the description.